Hello and welcome to ThePrint. Today we have with us author Debora Ann Shea to discuss her first book, Escape from Pakistan, The Untold Story of Jack Shea. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
The book released last year and is a tribute to the author's father, Commodore Jack Shea. It is also a tribute to all those who serve India in uniform and make sacrifices to protect the country. Set in the backdrop of the 1965 India-Pakistan War, it narrates the valiant and successful attempt of Commodore Jack Shea to extradite an Indian diplomat and his family safely out of Pakistan on the assumption that espionage charges would be leveled against the diplomat by Pakistan. The book also unpacks the events that played out as a result of that extradition, including the impact on the Commodore's own life. So I want to begin by asking you, what made you write such a personal book, as the book is as much a story on your father's, Jack Shea's life, as it is about the events in Karachi and the repatriation?
What made me write the book was because when my father returned from from Pakistan to India in 1968, at that time, the government of India, and I think in consultation with the Defense Ministry and the Indian Navy, because diplomatic ties with Pakistan were very, very delicate at that time. And since my father had survived the attack on his life, they did not want to escalate the matter. And so the matter was classified. It was a classified matter. And as you would be knowing, any classified matter cannot be spoken about for 3 decades, that is to say 30 years. And so my father and my mother also, they never spoke about it. Of course, we were aware of it, but publicly or officially, they were not permitted to speak about it. Of course, my mother succumbed to cancer very soon after, and my father was alone for many years, almost 20 years after she died. And I found in him the profound loneliness. And I used to wonder, why would it be that the country doesn't want to know about something he's done for them? There was no personal benefit. There was no monetary gain. He did not achieve any, there was nothing to achieve for him. It was purely an altruistic endeavor to save another fellow compatriot. And of course, with maturity, you understand that these stories cannot get buried, because once they're buried, then it's over, And I just felt that at least to pay honor to my father's contribution to the country and to the Indian Navy, I felt that I should write the story and tell the people of this country the kind of things that our soldiers, our airmen, our mariners do for them on a daily basis and without any hesitation. And the endeavor was so that people, value and cherish their independence and don't take it lightly, because it comes at a great cost.
So basically you wanted the story of your father's sacrifice and also to represent the larger sacrifices people in uniform make to be out there and to sort of people to imbibe this.
Okay. Yes.
Given that the events took place now 55, 57 years ago, I just wanted to know, how did you sort of recall everything? Like, you vividly point out, say, instances in Hindustan court, instances of the repatriation, the drives in the desert and things like that. How did you recall everything? Did you have it written down?
No. I don't know how I recall it so vividly, but it's so vivid in my mind, It was like it happened yesterday. Um, I remember because, see, we were incarcerated. We were under house arrest. There were soldiers in our compound. They were armed soldiers. Uh, there was we didn't have food. There was no electricity. There was no communication with the outside world. So I think as a child, these things uh, get deeply imprinted on your mind. I remember my brother who was just a baby, and I remember him, screaming all night. So these things are very vivid memories. Uh, and the other parts, like if you see in the preamble, was there is like a creative. Of course, I couldn't have been there. There is a creative also. We knew what happened, but the details are all filled in so that we make the narrative much more appealing and engaging. So, and then there would be a few indiscrepancies may have crept in over the passage of time, but by and large, the narrative is I would say, central to the attack on my father as a consequence of the extradition of the diplomat and his family out of Pakistan. The main focus is that they attacked my father and brutally attacked him, and he lay in coma for many months. And we felt that he won't survive, but it was just his doughty spirit of never say die that pulled him through. So it's very vivid, of course. And then my father and my mother and their tales and their stories to us over the years. And because my mother feared for my father's life, that the job which the Pakistanis had left unfinished, they would come back to finish it. So she had kept the hospital papers, and so we knew. So the papers were kept, and later it was given to my aunt for safe custody. And she would always say, if anything happens to us, this would be with you, so you would know. So I have seen those papers, and so the dates are there, and the injuries are there, and so that kind of a timeline is there.
So basically, like vivid memories of what would have been such a frightening experience in childhood, and some documents then help you recreate the narrative and exactly what happened.
Yes, of course.
So I wanted to ask, prior to the events of the book, say before the book starts with the banquet at the High Commission, the Deputy High Commissioner's house, what was Commodore Jack Shea's role in Pakistan? He was there as a naval attaché. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, he was the naval attaché. So every embassy or every High Commission has a representative from each of the forces, whether it's Army, Navy, and the Air Force. So it is basically to represent the armed forces of each country, and they interact with each other, with other attachés from different countries. So it's basically a diplomatic exercise in which there's a lot of information which they share. And there is certain rapport they build with each other, like a camaraderie, because like you never know in the future, they have to work with each other. And so if there is a personal touch, so it was basically a diplomatic exercise. Of course, bearing in mind that Pakistan being the neighboring country, and we were not on very friendly terms. So the attachés, especially the military attachés, had to watch out for any warning signs. And this was to be communicated to India or to Defense Ministry at the earliest, so that if there was any kind of action being planned against India. So India would be prepared to take preemptive steps. And this is exactly what happened. Pakistan attacked India on the 26th of August, 1965. And it was the information and the intelligence which was passed on to the defense ministry by this particular diplomat who was stationed in Pakistan at that time, that put India on the guard, that Pakistan was about to attack them. And so when Pakistan did attack, this was their second attempt at gaining access to Kashmir. So in the Indian forces were ready to stymie their attempt. So they were quite taken aback that how did India know that we were going to attack? And this was the reason they did a fact-finding kind of campaign in which they found several of the Indian officials could have been, or they suspected that information on intelligence was leaked to the defense ministry, and so they were prepared. The forces were prepared when Pakistan attacked.
And then that's where the presumptive evacuation took place.
Yes. Yes.
The Jack was involved.
Yes. Yes.
So specifically, we just spoke about the banquet. I wanted to ask you at the beginning of the book, where were you that day? Were you present at the banquet, or were you?
No. I was. I think I was 9 years old, and we were at home. Yes, and children were never allowed to attend any of these parties. Like I said, it's a creative narrative, but at the same time, it was narrated very clearly to me about to my brothers and myself about, especially the waiter, because we knew him, because when we would visit the Deputy High Commissioner's house, he would be there to give us our drinks and serve us. So we knew him, and he was from India. He was an Indian, and he was specially stationed in the Deputy High Commissioner's house to take care of the Deputy High Commissioner. But I guess, the ground realities in Pakistan, they managed to get through to him and managed to compromise him. So he was the one who spiked my father's drink.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was very clear, because my father, I think my mother told me very clearly it was the
And he was the one who had obviously got the other people in who then attacked your father?
Yeah. So he was the one who let the guys in.
Okay.
I think they were commandos or hitmen, because my father said one thing to me, I remember, many years later. He said they knew how to hit me. So it had to be a military man, or it had to be a commando. So the areas in which they hit him was on the temple, on the shoulder, on the arm, the hip, and the spine. So basically these were the crucial points and my dad recognized it to be that of a military man, a trained person.
So after your father gets hit and then he's found and then he's rushed to the hospital, I think he's there for nearly more than a month or things like that at Karachi's 7th day Adventist hospital. So did you recall any of that time? Quite frightening to be so young.
We were not as children, because below the age of, I think, 14 or 15, we were not allowed to visit the hospital. But when my dad was in hospital for several weeks, and we just didn't know what was going on. And my mother would say, Dad is not well, your father's not well. And that was the only answer we got. And when he did recover from the coma, and I think it was about 6 weeks to 7 weeks later. So she did take us one time to the hospital, and we were sitting in the waiting room because we were not allowed to go upstairs. And the nurse brought him in a wheelchair, and he was slumped to one side. He couldn't hold his body up, and very thin, very gaunt. His eyes were sunken. We couldn't make him out to be our father. It was like he was like totally ashen. His complexion was like ash. So that was the one time we were allowed to go and see him, and then after that, they didn't allow us to see him.
Yeah, that must have been truly a very frightening sort of memory.
Yes, because he couldn't hold. Yeah, he couldn't hold his body up, and he was slumped to one side. So we couldn't. My brother and I, we couldn't recognize him until he spoke.
And then after your father recovered, then you were there in Karachi for a year more, and he served at this time?
Yeah, because this happened in 1966.
Okay.
And of course, after his rehabilitation took almost 6 months. And so by August of 1966, he went back to work in the High Commission. And so High Commissioner had asked him that, would you like to go back to India? And because by that time, the Army attaché, Brigadier Kamran, and the Air Force attaché, Group Captain Barua, they had already left Pakistan. They were given the option, would you like to continue your tenure or would you like to go back? And most of the people in the High Commission, they decided to go back to India. So there was only the High Commissioner, Deputy High Commissioner, and my father in the Indian High Commission. Yeah.
So even in this time of tumult and after an injury, he decided to still stay on.
Yeah, because my father was of that temperament. He was a person. He was a never say die person, and nothing. You see, that was the way he was. That was his character. Nothing. He was unstoppable. You could never tell him this can't be done, or we should do this because it's safe, or he didn't believe in all that. He was a very brave man, and he believed in facing life, like face on, like upright, honest, straightforward. So he just said, no, I've come here for a particular tenure, and I'll complete that, and I'll go back.
Yes, I think that's truly remarkable, because given the circumstances, I don't think most people would have even thought of sticking on. I think after recovery, most people would have wanted to go back.
Yes.
So specifically, I wanted to talk to you about the last chapter of the book, which is the Investiture Ceremony, where Commodore Shea is awarded the Ati Vishish Seva Medal, the AVSM. Tell us a bit about this day. How did it feel as a family to get the AVSM?
Yeah. So the thing is that when my dad came back, he first served in Bombay for 3 years. Yeah, for 3 years. And he was at that time there was a new squadron in the Indian Navy called the Destroyer Squadron, and there were 3 ships, the 3 destroyers, Rajput, Rana, and Ranjit. And so my father commanded the Destroyer Squadron as Captain D. And so the Navy, when he came back, the Navy treated him like a hero. He was a hero for them. And he was Captain D. He was also the only torpedo specialist in the Navy. So they gave him a lot of acknowledgement, commendation letters from the Chief of Naval Staff. And so by the time we went to Delhi, he was posted in Delhi in the National Defense Academy to do his what they call the senior officers course.
That's
So
like
when we were
sorry, that's like a mid-career course or something like that?
yes. It's like every kind of stage of your career you go for. Either it's specialization or it's management or it's defense or certain things. So this was an NDA, the National Defense Academy. And so when he was in the NDA, he was given the Ati Vishwas Seva Medal. And as you know, it's held in the Darbar Hall in Rashtrapati Bhavan. And the president gives you the medal and the citation. And the prime minister attends, the defense minister attends, all the ministers, all the bureaucrats. So the entire power hierarchy of the Indian government attends the function. So it was extremely, we felt very proud of it. And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. The grandeur and the pageantry is breathtaking.
Must have been truly a remarkable day. Before we run out of time, I just want to ask, what has it been like after you got the book out and your father's story in the public, the reactions and sort of the interactions that you've had since? How have you found
I think words fail me because the Navy has supported the book in such a tremendous way and supported not only the book but me also. And wherever the book has been read and the reviews have been given and all that, they have said very nice things and very kind things. Of course, commending my father's story and saying that it's a story that's never been told. And so it was the Navy that supported the book to a large extent, also the Army and the Air Force. In fact, it was Air Marshal S.P. Singh who was the mentor of this book, in the sense that because it was about a defense personnel, so we can't be politically or militarily, you can't be incorrect. So he read the manuscript many times, and he would always guide me and correct me if I was going wrong in any way, or he would add something to it if I had left it out. So, and then not only the armed forces, not only the defense forces, but even the public, everyone who's read the book have said that it's such an amazing story, and we're so happy that you wrote it, so that people get to know that this is what our soldiers do for them on a daily basis.
So just for me, I read it recently as well, and not only is the story, of course, is gripping and it's like fascinating to read, but just the way you've also written it. So like once you pick it up, it's hard to sort of let it go because you want to know how this story unfolds. So with that, I think that brings us to the end of our time. So I want to thank you so much for joining us and for writing this story of courage. And I hope more and more people can read it and imbibe it and talk about this great, valiant escape that your father gave to the country. Thank you.
Thank you so much.